Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, back for more Monsterpocalypse and Sky Sentinel. I'm going to start with 09206 Tarnished Steel. I think I said that in the most awkward way possible, but it's one of the first super mechs developed by Guard. Sky Sentinel was the brother mech to Laser Knight, which was destroyed by Gorgadra, its pilot killed, and the general in charge of Guard ordering its AI core retrieved. With the data from that, Sky Sentinel was upgraded and Defender X was put into production, but until DX was ready, Sky Sentinel's pilots sometimes had to do 3 straight days worth of fighting before he got a chance to rest. Now, as I talked about in the previous video, every monster, or in the second series of Monsterpocalypse, there was one monster in each faction, based off of a monster from the first series, and Laser Knight shared parts with Sky Sentinel, losing the wings, but picking up a shield and a laser sword. Now, as far as Sky Sentinel's abilities goes, he's somewhat lacking in offense, but buffs up friendly faction flyers substantially, making it possible to get multiple anti-monster attacks on a unit turn with the right combo of units and a little bit of planning, which is actually how he worked in the first edition too. He picks up lightning attack when he hits hyperform, but overall his combat abilities are lackluster compared to the other monsters, but makes up for it with his buffing ability. Let's see here. Got my wires in an awkward way, trying something new on that, and I don't know if it's going to work out, but I'm trying not to accidentally rip my camera off the table here. Compared to Defender X, Sky Sentinel is not quite as big and bulky, but in fact, he's almost a full head shorter than DX, but again, he was kind of the prototype, and though upgraded, Defender X is the mainstay there. And I am again hoping that Laser Knight makes an appearance in the game. But as he shared parts with Sky Sentinel, it's hopefully likely that he gets some substantial changes to his overall look, which I don't know why Privateer wouldn't use every character they can. They're definitely spreading it out a lot more, so maybe after some of the other factions get their second and third monsters, we'll start to see them go towards some of what once was. And while Defender X looks more like a space shuttle, I think Sky Sentinel looks more like an older bomber, maybe a B-52 from World War II. I think I have exactly enough paint out to the job. I'm just going to go under get these joints in the feet. So like Defender X, it doesn't specifically mention on his card, but we can assume he's got a similar armament with a little more paint with rocket fists that fly off, a built-in arc cannon on the chest, and head-mounted laser cannons. the comic book that came out to promote the original version of the game. Sky Sentinel was pretty much the hero of it. Well, Sky Sentinel and his crew, anyway. They're one of the retcons since first edition is that the Guard's super mechs are piloted by a single person with an AI assistant or core. So, okay. I think I like that for the steel, so I'm gonna call that good on that, let it dry, and move on to the next color in a little bit. Still gotta figure out that focus thing. Okay. Leather White 09062. I hope I have enough of this to finish the job. And it's plugged up, so paper clip down the nozzle. Wow, this is a, I can't remember if this is a color I got reordered or not. So we'll just have to cross some fingers and see if it's enough. That is way too thick. I'm just gonna go over the bulk of the head here. I'm gonna pick out other colors later, but white is kind of the base I'm going for here. And it was kind of a toss-up if I was going to start with this or the silver, so you obviously saw how I decided to go. So, just using short strokes, and I'm just going to go, this is an off-white, not a pure white, by the way. I'm just going to go all over this. And now, there are a substantial number of detail differences between Sky Sentinel and Defender X, so even looking at what I've done before with Guard, there are going to be plenty of differences between the two in terms of the exact details. While it may not be too obvious to the camera, it's plenty obvious to me what the difference between the primer color and this off-white. Okay. More back here, and then on the wings. The shoulders are definitely going to be picked out in blue, but that's a later color. And I want to do the hips before I get to the wings and the forearms. I might have to end up doing the legs off camera just because of choices I have for where to grip. Obviously, I don't want to put my hand in wet paint. Not for fear of getting dirty, but for fear of ruining the paint job. Might have to do a second coat on the back where some of the steel got on there. It's alright if I do. The emblem up front on the crotch is going to be done in gold, just like on Defender X, which I did him up a while ago, like forever ago. I can't remember how long it's been. And the wings, I'm going to pick out in a different color, I think, but for now, I'm going to get the bulk of the turbines even though these air brake panels are going to be picked out later. I'm going to just do them now in this. Again, my only problem with the resin is it's a little difficult to clean it up sometimes, just because you can't tell where a certain detail is supposed to end or begin. Just something to be mindful of. I don't actually want to do any assembly videos. That's something I just like to leave for myself. I think I've got enough paint to get this done. Now I've got a little in the turbine. Let's go more water in there to thin it out and blot it out with the towel. That's why I keep that paper towel handy. Just going all over that turbine, getting a nice solid coat. Stopping at the wing. Okay. Forearms. That's a little too thick. Just use a brush to spread that out a little more. It's like Sky Sentinel's in the act of throwing a rocket punch. In addition to Defender X's arms being bulkier, Sky Sentinel also lacks the penetrating spikes that are in front of the rocket engines, but looks like this panel might be intended to flip over the knuckle. I'm not certain of, but some of this is up to imagination. Get the interior of the knee here. I'm a little hoarse. I'm just going to get the entirety of the leg going down to the foot. Put at least a nominal coat on the bottom of the feet. That got a little thick again. Gotta watch that. Starting to get a little clumsy here, so let's just try to tighten it up a little. Okay, it's got it. Let's give it a shot on the other leg here. Using these broad, quick strokes right there, slowing it down on the more detailed areas. And definitely need to get the bottom of this heel because it's off of the ground as Sky Sentinel gets ready to open fire. And don't be afraid to get acrobatic with your model, because sometimes you're just not going to have the right angle right away. You'll see here I'm holding at different contact points that are not painted. Just a nominal coating on the bottom of the foot. Need a little more paint, but not a lot. That might do the trick. This base coat's going to take the most work to get on. Going right up to it where the steel of the joint meets up with the armor plating of the foot. Getting more refined the closer I get to other colors. Again, you get all these joints and pistons in the articulated foot. Which I have to assume is to give it the best footing possible. Alright. I think that's got it. So I'm going to let that dry and then start picking out some other colors. So back in a bit. Okay. Phoenix Red 09005. Yeah. I had to think for a minute. Start on the legs. I want to get these secondary thrusters. One of Sky Sentinel's key aspects is maneuverability. And these are listed on his card as secondary maneuvering thrusters. At this point, I'm just picking out a few details here and there to draw visual interest. And here, just this one panel here on the armor skirt. I'm just following that line. It's carved into it. And there's a similar panel on the back I'll do as well. Okay. Now, let's see here. On a chest. pick out this panel here that surrounds the arc cannon. This would be his big hit. And the interior I'm not going to worry about because that's going to be lit up when I finish. I am, though, going to get this grate along the waist, which I also picked out and read on Defender X. The two Supermechs have a lot of detail differences. There are certain things that they do share that I do want to get consistent between the two. Okay. On the head, gonna get the laser cannons. For some reason, the paint is being repelled here. I don't know why. Maybe it's the amount of water. I'm not certain. I'm not gonna worry about it either right now. I'm just gonna keep adding coats until it sticks. Just real thin. I'm using just enough water to thin the paint out. Just going for nice, solid coverage. Okay. Let's see here. Kind of working from the bottom to the top. And don't think there are any details on the fists I want to do, but I am definitely going to do the wings. And comparing the new Sky Sentinel to the sculpt from the original game, the wings are actually a lot shorter on this one. Whoa, bad grip there. Okay, I was hearing bad noises for a second there. I'm thinking I might need to just get a different program for doing these videos at this point. I bought one I could afford. I upgraded it once, and not only is it getting really pushy, wanting me to buy another upgrade, but I don't know if I'm that satisfied with it. It does the job, but the question is, can I do a better job with something else? Something to think about. Alright, now let's see here. So look them over. Are there any other details on this color? Looking at DX, not really. I think I'm good on red. There's other things I want to get in blue, but I think I need to let this dry before I do blue. What I can do now, though, is take Antique Gold 09050 and do the guard insignia on the belt. It's got that. I'm gonna let this dry a bit. Excuse me, allergy season. So I'm gonna let this dry a bit and then move on with one last base coat. Just in a little bit here. Okay. True Blue 09017. And this will be the last base coat. I'm gonna start on the head and I can't really see it too well from that angle, but that's what I have to work with. But I'm carefully picking out sort of the perimeter here. This sort of armored cowling around. Sort of a crown, if you will. To something very similar on Defender X. This is one detail that both Super Mechs are going to have in common. Real careful here. Gotta kind of work from the interior out. Now on the chest, I'm gonna pick out these two panels flanking the cannon. I'm trying to brace my dominant hand that I'm painting with the fingers of my offhand as best I can. Now, one of the big ones is the shoulders, which I also did in blue on Defender X. So this is going to be sort of a detail I go with across the faction. And I can loosen up and use broad strokes here. Getting the interior as well, going right up to the shoulder here. And I'm starting to drop frames again. This nozzle here in the end here is a detail that Sky Sentinel has, the Defender X doesn't. imagine it's another maneuvering thruster. Working on the other arm. Let's adjust the light a bit, see if I can get a little more on him. That's only marginally working. It's getting more in my eyes than it is on the model. Being real careful here not to nick the steel. Or especially the white that I'm keeping. That seems a bit thick. Okay. I nicked a bit of the white here. We'll just a little water to dilute that and absorb it. Pick out these air brake panels. That's another detail I did on DX. I was thinking about doing this in either blue or red, but I think I'm going to leave it white. Get the same brakes on the other side. At least I'm thinking these are air brakes. I might be wrong, but in any case, I think it's a nice detail to pick out. Okay, moving on down this sort of knuckle here. I definitely wanted in the blue the whole time. So, I've mentioned the Laser Knight being one of the missing guard monsters from the first edition. Well, only missing for now. The other would be Legionnaire, which was their metamorph. And from what I can gather, the metamorphs will not appear, at least not in the same form they did in the first edition, but they were kind of like Power Rangers or Voltron, with starting out as a bunch of unit-sized mini-monsters called Morphers and combining into a larger form for their hyper forms. And Legionnaire consisted of 2 tanks and 2 jets that combined. Let me go down and do the panels around the knee here. I want to get this part kind of contain the nozzle. So I'm hoping eventually we do get to Laser Knight and Legionnaire and possibly more guard monsters that haven't appeared in the game yet, because part of the original edition was there was this implication that each faction was going to end up with up to 6 monsters. So we'll just see what happens in the new one. They're definitely, since they're not bound by a pre-painted production run, They're definitely making sure they get out all the factions that were in the original game and are already starting to add new ones with the Green Fury, the Waste, the Necro Scourge, and the Draken Empire being new for this edition. This doesn't look too bad at all, actually. Okay, apply that to the other knee. Just real tiny controlled strokes here. Patience and practice is the name of the game here. Refreshing the paint is necessary. Trying to get on the inside of the knee as best I can, but I'm not too worried about a solid coat there. That'll get darkened up nice when I shade it in a little bit. Keep my brush moist, but not overly wet. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to let that dry completely and then start shading. Okay, time to shade. Sapphire Blue 09016. Yeah, we'll start here. I can do one more before I have to let paint dry. And I think I just said that in the most awkward way possible. Get the appropriate brush, that'll work. Thinning the paint into a wash with 1 part water to 1 part paint. For darker colors, you'll need 2 to 3 parts water to 1 part paint. But this will do here. Okay. Well, this will work for the larger areas, but not for the heads. So I'll start with these panels on the back. That's a bit much right there. I don't want to get too much paint. You run the risk of having it just clog up certain details like these little vents. A little more down there to make sure all the white that I may have missed is covered up. I'm going to switch to a smaller detail brush to get the head. Just going over the true blue from earlier. Your base coat is the middle value of what you want. The shade will be a darker version of that same color. Your highlight, which is one of the last steps, will be a brighter version of your color or value. Switching back to the larger one. flare. Just letting it flow around. Keeping the brush very wet during this step. Just kind of working from the top down. Refilling my paint as needed. Checking on my, oh boy, and while I blinked, my computer decided to drop 136 frames. The joys of technical difficulties strike again, and unfortunately this is one of those I have exactly one chance things. Not unless I want to strip paint for 3 months, which I don't. I don't even know if how what I use to strip paint would affect resin like Sky Sentinel here, so. The paint job is fine. It's the recording where I'm running into troubles. As I've said before, the internet has no shortage of criticism, but actual practical advice can be very hard to find. Okay, that shades all the blue. Now, going to shade the gold with Ancient Bronze 09049. And it's probably going to take me 3 more rounds of shading to finish this. One for the red, one for the white, one for the silver. Then I'll have some lighting effects after that. Okay. I need to let that dry completely, then I can do the next shade. Okay. Next, Fire Red 09004. Let's adjust that a little bit. Clogged up, so using a paper clip to clear it. It's really fighting me. There we are. Oh boy, that blew up. Hope I didn't. Alright. Alright. Again, thinning with 1 part water to 1 part paint. Going over the head-mounted laser cannons. I'll do the wings last. There's not too terribly much of this. And again, that cannon's going to be lit up. I'm just going over all these panels I've previously picked out. And these thrusters in the knees. I'm really going to have to play around with the lighting. Alright. Okay. Let that dry completely and then move on to the white. Okay. Linen white 09061. I did some touch-ups on the white off camera and a little bit on the steel where it got into the intake on the jet engine, so good on that. Thinning out. I'm just going to start on the head and torso and the wings up to the engines. And I think actually I'm going to have to just do the legs separate, so we'll just do that for the sake of expediency for the purposes of the video. So I'll do everything. I'll do waist up in one take and then do waist down on camera. Or off camera, oh boy. I don't necessarily need to do that because it's going to be redone anyway in a lighting effect, but just be real careful where I come close to other colors. And see right here, it's already kind of bleeding into the steel, so I'll have to touch it up off camera, so that's fine. I'll take care of that before I shade it while I'm doing the other half of the shading on this white. Trying to be very careful near the shoulders and the other parts of the face that aren't white. And I can probably get the hips too. We'll do that too. Go ahead and get underneath there just to darken it up. it's got this bit of armor over the waist articulation. Let's see. Yeah, we'll do the forearms next. Perhaps letting the paint get just a little out of control, but it's alright. Because I can always touch up. I don't necessarily have the best choice for painting angles on these engines, but I'll work with what I've got. I'm going to do one at a time for the sake of being thorough. And while I'm painting, Sky Sentinel's just going to be doing some acrobatics. Let's try to keep in camera. Again, I've got something of an awkward configuration in my studio. I don't actually have the space and plugins to have the monitor, a computer monitor in front of me while I'm painting. It's right behind me, which means I have to physically turn around to see what the computer's doing. Since I tend to hyper-focus on things like this while I'm active on them, I can end up ignoring sounds that I should be listening for longer than I should. There's a little more in there. Alright, that's it for now. I'll get the legs and feet off camera, and when I come back I'll shade the steel. Alright, last shade, Blackened Steel 09205, and I got a shiny new bottle of this to use. If I'm lucky, that might be enough. And thinning it out. Get the face and kind of get it down into the neck area there. Just let it drip all around. Oh, nicked the shoulder by mistake. Okay, now Now we'll get the underarm here. And this big ball joint at the shoulder. Do the same on the other arm. Yeah, and I noticed I just nicked the blue there when I did the white. But I should be able to compensate for that when I highlight, so we'll go with that solution. Okay, going down to the waist. Let's try to get inside there. It's not going to be perfect and doesn't have to be, because that's area is pretty much completely in shadow. Okay. Now to the fists. Refresh my paint a bit. To the thighs. Or upper legs, I guess. The thighs are much higher, technically speaking. And I'm recording this, yeah. Had so many glitches during this video, especially with frame drops. I'm getting more paranoid than usual. And let's go ahead and do the feet. So those mechanisms, those pistons in here under the armor. It'll show up much better on the right foot since the Sentinel here is in the process of launching off a rocket fist and has his legs braced for that. Now, the exhausts. Thrusters here. I think I just used the wrong word a second ago. Don't know why I'm shading the inside, because those are going to be done up with a lighting effect too. Whatever, it's alright. A little bit of that got on the way. Let's take a paper towel and just soak that up. Should be able to take care of that when I highlight, so that's okay. Finishing up on the top of the turbine there. Keeping my brush nice and wet. Get the other side. Alright, you know what, I changed my mind. I'll get this interior surface of the housing there too. Alright, let that dry completely, then I can start on lighting effects. Okay, trying something different here, but I've already prepped the areas that are going to be lit up with matte white, just to save a little time now. So Fire Orange 09006. Now for lighting effect, we're thinning it out just like with a shade but thinning it into more of a glaze, so 2 to 3 parts water to 1 part paint. Now this is going to go in the visor, where the cockpit would assumably be. Most mecha have their cockpits either in the head or the chest. Though in one of the Assorted Gundam series, the cockpit is on the crotch, which would make that the only one of the few robots that could be taken down by a kick to the nads, to use the crudest vernacular possible. Sky Blue 09018, and all that racket is just the groundskeeping crew at my condo complex here, mowing the lawns. Nothing to be concerned about. Thinning out the Sky Blue. And we'll get this in the thrusters on the forearms. If it spills over a little bit, that's fine, because A, helps to sell the glowing, and B, would stand to reason that if Sky Sentinel is about to launch a rocket punch, they're in the process of firing up. Got an awkward angle on this last one. Okay. Thrusters in the back legs. This back here. Keeping the brush nice and wet. Let's readjust that a little. That seems okay. C will do. Here. And there you see I'm kind of using a circular motion here. That's the back side in its entirety, so before I forget them, we'll get the laser cannons on the side of the head. And assumably these energy weapons will draw from the main reactors. Which would also logically fuel the thrusters. And wrapping up with the big old arc cannon in the center. Okay. Let that completely dry, then I can highlight and wrap up. Alright, time to highlight. Get that up there. I'm going to start with True Silver 09207. Okay, needing a ragged feathered brush, something like that. That'll do. Straight paint, no water. Rub most of that on the paper towel till it looks like there's nothing left. And lightly dust the area to be affected. I'm going to focus on the readily visible areas only. Refreshing paint as needed. Let's do next. And I'm going against any raised areas, which will help catch the paint. Edges, that was the word I'm looking for. Oh boy. Now with the dry brushing, the paint dries almost instantly, not quite, but almost. Quickly enough that I don't really have to wait before moving on to the next color at all. Now my brush does need to be completely dry, so I'm just going to switch to a different one that is. And now I am taking Pearl White 09100. This is a metallic white, which I'm going to need quite a bit of, because this is going on the majority of Sky Sentinel's body here. I just need a nice big brush. There we go. I'm going to just go ahead and start from the bottom up. This is a bit subtle. It's kind of a pearlescent white, really. I'm going to move my things a little bit here. Refreshing paint as needed. It is a bit subtle, but I like the way it turns out overall. I'm going to take a more of a detail brush here, still using the straight paint. Just gonna cover up that spillover from the steel here. It looks pretty good. Back to the dry brushing. This is kind of, it's subtle, but it puts a nice sheen on things. And again, most of my focus is on the readily visible areas. Just a little bit of straight paint there to kind of cover up that spillover. This is going to take the most time because it's the most dominant color. All right. Next, let's do the blue. So, sparkling blue 09104, which is a metallic blue. Oh boy. Well, running out, but I have more on the way, so I should have enough to do this though. I just need the right brush for the job. Face and the knees and all these other panels that I had picked out in the blue. I'm starting to get hyper focused again, which means I'm not talking as much. I'll flip my towel over and use the other side. Again, refreshing my paint as necessary. Blue's probably the second most dominant color here. A little bit of straight paint there to kind of dull out white a bit. Again, focusing on the most readily visible surfaces, so mostly the front and top. And more straight paint back there. Just kind of a nominal amount on these panels that are partially obscured by the shoulders. More attention to their matches on the back. That's a bit much. If you catch it quickly enough, you can kind of rub off excess with your thumb, but you gotta be real quick. Okay. Just two left. Clean that a little better. Ruby red 09101. This is a metallic red. There's also a color that's about empty for me, but again, I've got a replacement on the way, so hopefully I've got enough to do what I need to do here, though. Checking my camera right here, looks okay. Or frame rate, and what am I thinking? I'm getting mixed up on my terminology. Forget it. Recording seems to be going okay so far, no major problems. One frame dropped, which is real good based on how it's been going for me lately. Still a little bit of straight paint right there where some of the blue got into it. These big, almost ear-like laser cannons. And the wings. Last highlight. New gold 09051. That was just a brush falling off of the little box I had it resting on. Let's get the insignia on the belt. And that's it for painting. Now I need to let that dry for a bit. Once it dries completely, I can glue them to the base and wrap this up. Okay, last step is to glue Sky Sentinel to his base. I like to keep these in the protective plastic wrap until the last minute, because when I start painting, the paint starts flying. Even a noise you don't expect. So, thick cyanoacrylate superglue. I put a dot on the heel, dot on the toe, dot on the toe. That's all we're going to need. And something like that, I think, for the positioning. We're going to hold that for about 20 seconds or so. So, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's got it. So, last step is to varnish it, but that is it. Sky Sentinel from the Guard faction of Monsterpocalypse. Got one more Protector mod, 2 more Monsterpocalypse models. Next one is something special edition, so until next time, I am Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, signing out. Alright. Still fight me on focus.